And the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has officially launched 5G services in India. The launch took place at the 6th edition of India Mobile Congress in New Delhi. This marks the beginning of the use of the next generation network in the country. However, 5G services will not be available in the whole country immediately. We can expect phased rollout over months. The network will be launched in 13 Indian cities first, which are Ahmedabad, Bengaluru, Chandigarh, Chennai, Delhi, Gandhinagar, Gurugram, Hyderabad, Jamnagar, Kolkata, Lucknow, Mumbai and Pune.
Hello everyone. On 1st of October 2022, the Prime Minister of India officially announced the rollout of commercial 5G services in India, and this marks the beginning of another wave of digital revolution in India. This also marks the beginning of business war between four giant players in the industry, which are Reliance Jio, Bharti Airtel, Vodafone Idea and the one and only Adani Group. But while most of us only know that 5G is faster than 4G, as student of business, very few of us know how exactly will 5G change the landscape of the Indian business ecosystem. So, in this video today, let's try to understand what exactly is this 5G spectrum all about and what is so special about it that the Prime Minister himself considers it to be an instrument for his 2047 vision. To understand the power of 5G, we need to have a basic understanding of something called the electromagnetic spectrum and what is the frequency of 5G spectrum. For the non-science students, an electromagnetic spectrum is nothing but the range of frequencies of electromagnetic radiation and their respective wavelengths. Spectrum, which is nothing but the visible light. In the spectrum, you have the frequency stated in hertz or cycles per second. So, if I say 10 hertz, there are 10 cycles of these waves per second. And if I say 5 hertz, there are only 5 cycles of these waves per second. As the human civilization evolved, we started to find application in different segments of the spectrum. Now, in our context, the telecommunication waves that are used for calling, texting and internet lies between the radio and microwaves. And within this range we have 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G and 5G with the speeds and features increasing with each upgrading generation. In between 0.7 GHz to 40 GHz we have the 5G spectrum. By the way, 1 GHz is nothing but 10 raised to 9 Hz, or you can say 10 to the power 9 Hz. So this is why the giant players of the Indian telecom industry come in and they bought specific spectrums for themselves to kickstart their 5G business. If you want to understand the frequencies that they have bought, you can actually go into understand the purpose behind their purchase. In 5G, there are three types of bands based on frequencies: low band, mid band and high band. The low band frequencies are less than 1 GHz. Then in between 1 and 6 GHz we have the mid band, and then from 24 to 40 GHz we have the high frequency bands. Out of all these bands, there were three specific 5G bands that the telecom giants were very eager to acquire. So let's understand these high demand bands. The first band is the low band of 700 MHz spectrum, which was bought by Jio. This is one of the most efficient frequencies for providing high-speed internet to rural and dense area, and it is expected to give you the speed of more than 300 MB per second. Cherry on the cake is, it is also twice as efficient as 900 MHz frequency band and is much cheaper than 1800 MHz band. This is the reason why it got the second highest speeds in the auction. Then we have the mid frequency band at 3300 to 3600 MHz spectrum, which was bought by Jio, Airtel and Vodafone Idea. This is again very special because it can deliver a speed close to 1 Gbps in a much more economical way, and hence it's best for mass consumers. This is the reason why we saw the highest bidders. Lastly, we have the third category, which is 26 GHz spectrum, and here we have all the four giants: Reliance, Airtel, Vodafone Idea and Adani. This is an elite ultra low latency, ultra fast 5G band that promises the speed up to 10 Gbps. This is such a high speed that it's not meant for consumers at all. It's supposed to be used exclusively at the enterprise level to manage the high-grade technologies like manufacturing units and ports. So you saw Adani has specifically bought this band for industrial purposes and not for consumer purposes. Apart from these, the other bands were bought by Vodafone Idea and Airtel, which seem to be less efficient but cheap to start. So, when the 20 years license of these spectrums were put to bid, the government earned a combined total of 1.5 lakh crores. After the understanding of bands and frequencies with the 5G auction and the spectrum specification, now we will look at the superpower of 5G and understand how it will change the human civilization. First superpower that 5G brings to the table is the application of Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is a concept whereby all the devices in our surroundings will get connected to the internet such that they start coordinating with each other and start building upon the data they actually collect. Thereafter, they become more and more intelligent. For example, if you meet with an accident in an expressway, let alone calling an ambulance, there are big patches on the expressway wherein you don't even have range. So, if you are alone and you crash, until someone else comes and sees you and then decides to call an ambulance, there is a big delay. Similarly, even if someone calls a hospital, what if the hospital doesn't have a vacant ambulance? Then they will make another call to another hospital and then they will call the ambulance guy, who will then ask for the location. After you send the location, the ambulance will start moving towards the patient. And even after the patient arrivals in the hospital, the doctor doesn't have any idea about the blood group of this patient, whether he or she is diabetic or not, and so on. Again, they might wait for their relatives to tell them the details, resulting into more delays, and these delays can cost you your life. But in a world where Internet of Things has evolved, this is how the exact same scenario will work out. First of all, the watch, car, hospital, ambulance, doctors, police and toll plazas, all of them will be connected to the internet. So, the moment when crash happens, the smartwatch on the car will detect the crash and immediately the algorithm will find the nearest hospital with an available ambulance. The ambulance driver will get an alert along with the location, and the moment one of them accepts, the ambulance will start moving and the patient will be admitted. Secondly, when the patient arrives, all the devices will have the medical details and insurance details of the patient, which can be accessed by the doctors to check the medical parameters, so that the doctors can act quickly without waiting for the relatives. In the same way, anything happens in a giant factory with big machineries that coordinate with each other to optimize the manufacturing and supply chain of a company. That is why industries requires the speed between 1 to 10 Gbps, and this is expected to be achieved through 5G. The second superpower is something called low latency. Now if you look at 4G, there is a 100 milliseconds response delay. When you press a button, it takes 100 milliseconds to respond. But with 5G, this response delay could be cut down to 1 millisecond. So the question is, 100 milliseconds are still fine. Why do we need 1 millisecond? Well, this is where we have the revolutionary cloud computing and cloud gaming industry coming ahead. Recently, gaming was primarily done in personal computers and gaming consoles like PlayStation and Xbox, and giant players like Call of Duty and GTA required you to have a high-end personal computer or consoles. They made money through CD sales, but the problem here is that in order to play these games, you need to have a console or PC. That will cost you 50 to 70,000 rupees, and because of this, the target audience of these games were very limited. This is where we have the game-changing concept of cloud gaming. Now, where you can play these games without any intervention of high-quality CPUs or gaming consoles. The entire processing of the game happens in the company's server itself without any delay. This brings me to the conclusion part of this video. We have really no idea about who will win the 5G war in our telecom industry, but for sure we can say that the 5G will bring a revolution in our country as well as in the world. Thank you so much everyone for giving us your valuable time and watching our video till the end.